What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since I've had a video up, well over a month, I'm pretty sure. Things have been super busy here, and I've basically tried filming 3 or 4 different episodes that I didn't get up because I'd get caught starting something else or working on another laser machine project, which is my day job. And so this episode here is basically just an update and accumulation of those 3 or more episodes. So this is going to kind of bounce around. This episode's going to involve some maintenance I did on the Dodge Diplomat. It's going to involve an update on the OBS F250, the carburetor replacement I started on the BMW 700, new battery, and some stuff on the Corvair. I haven't done much on the Century, so I did not make it to Turkey Rod Run. The last step for the 700 was replacing the carburetor, and I had that come in. Here's the old Solex here. It's a 30 pick 2 Solex. I did rebuild it when my dad and I first built the 700, and it ran like a top all of 2019, the first year I had the car. It ran amazingly, and then it just kind of kept giving me issues. So I bought a replacement carburetor. It's not a Solex, but it's a good rebuild. And I wanted to get it in the car so the car was runnable and drivable while I take the time to rebuild the Solex, because I'd love to have the Solex back in there. So the mad dash for Turkey Rod Run down in Daytona was to get the Ford F250 all sorted out, ready to haul a trailer, and then get the 700 ready to get down there. When I did the carburetor, everything seemed like it was the home stretch. The truck was sorted out, trailer wiring, trailer brakes, all that stuff was all sorted out in the truck. Got the carburetor on. Everything was calibrated well, jetted well. Everything seemed to be working perfectly. But now I've got a misfire in the car, and it's probably something simple. It's probably a combination of either my cap, plug wires, or plugs. But it was kind of like the last straw to just be like, you know what, I'm not going to force this trip. It is an 8-hour drive each way from here in Chattanooga, and I had a ton of laser work to be finishing up coming into the holiday season towards the end of the year. So I decided not to go, and I didn't really dive back into the 700 at all. The replacement carburetor is on, and it starts real well, but I haven't sorted out the misfire yet. Let's see. Turnkey, fires right up. Super happy with that. But like I said, I wasn't going to rush myself into getting the car sorted out when I had a lot of other work to do. So what I am going to do is I'm going to prep the car in the next 2 months for Eurotripper, which is the first weekend of February down in Fort Myers, Florida. My good friend Paul Barney puts that show on, as well as the Alpine Volks Fair show in Helen, Georgia, which was the first show that the 700 made its debut at, sort of say. So that's coming up. As I'm recording this, it's the first week of December. I probably filmed the Diplomat episode 2 months ago. I've been buried in work, been working on a real big job for Tommy up in Connecticut. Tommy F, yeah, some of you guys may know who that is. He does some car giveaways, and I made these genuine leather tactical key rings for the Civic giveaway that he just had. These are a genuine leather tactical style key ring. And I've done a handful of these for some of the other giveaways with different logos for him. So we did a ton of these. I also just finished up a massive job for Vibrant Performance. I did about 2,000 key rings for them. So that's been a job that I've been piecemealing over the last month, just so I could keep other work coming in as well. Super grateful to those guys for that job. That's been a massive job that's been also a massive help. So been chiseling away at some big jobs there. If you got entered to win Tommy's Civic and you did buy one of those are one of my key rings. So I hope you enjoy them. But anyway, here's an update on what's going on. I'll kind of add and splice in some stuff here for some of the stuff I've been tinkering on here in the shop. Okay, so you can see here I've got some ignition parts in, plugs. I've got a fuel filter, cap rotor. I've got a coil, and plug wires are already in the car. This is the 318 V8. This is Chrysler's V8 that they put in their trucks and cars. This one's an AC car, which is great. This was a Southern car its whole life. It barely left the Kingston, Tennessee area. owned by an elderly woman. I did a video about picking this car up a few videos back. All right, so I just fought and got the coil out. The coil in this car is against the inner fender, but in the nook of the firewall. So it's underneath all of this stuff. So it's a little difficult to get in there up underneath a lot of these lines without taking a whole bunch of stuff out. With 29,000 original miles on it, this is most likely the original coil. And as you can also see, the Bakelite top is broken, and inside is all corroded. Whenever that got broken is definitely when moisture started to get in there and cause all the corrosion. All right. I've been dealing with a lot of issues in the OBS. Well, it all stemmed from like one issue, but it caused many other issues that I've been working on. So the truck's currently in the shop now, and I've got it running, and I've got it running well, and I'm super excited about it. I've been buried in trying to diagnose a heavy misfire and basically rough running issue in the truck. So basically, I needed new tires on the truck. I was referred to a local shop here in Chattanooga. So I went to them for tires mounted, balanced, and in alignment. I've mentioned this before that it was a hard pill to swallow because back home I worked out of my father's shop, his hobby shop, and we had a tire machine, a balancer, and something like this is just something I would do myself and then take it to somewhere with an alignment rack to get an alignment done. But I don't have that here in Tennessee at my shop, so took it to the shop. Turns out it needed front end work, a lot of front end work. It needed upper and lower ball joints on both sides, an outer tie rod end. But ultimately, that bill, even with a deal on these Cooper AT3s, mounted and balanced, with all the front end work, it was gonna be just under $2,000. It was like $1,940 or something crazy. Or something crazy for me, who usually doesn't spend any money on labor somewhere else. I do it myself. But I'm not really set up here in the shop to do the ball joints in this truck. So I just bit the bullet, paid them the $2,000 basically to have that work done. And when I went to pick it up, I paid the bill, got the keys, went out back, started the truck, and it started on only one bank, 4 cylinders. Check engine light was on, would barely run, and couldn't get it to come out of it. And while it was idling, as I was trying to like throttle out of it, not knowing what was going on, smoke came from underneath the hood. I shut it off immediately, opened the hood, found out that it was one of my connectors for the injector and glow plug harness, which in this truck is the valve cover gasket. So any of you who have been in these 7.3 Power Strokes, you know what I'm talking about. But the valve cover gasket itself has 2 clips on the 95 on each side that services the injectors and your glow plugs. Now the passenger side bank rear clip had melted and caught fire. I was able to get that extinguished by just shutting the truck off. That heat and that meltdown also somehow affected the glow plug relay, and that burnt the power line to the post on the glow plug relay solenoid. So basically I didn't know what had happened. I thought maybe that clip had gotten corroded or the connection had gotten loose, and since there's a lot of resistance that goes through there for both the glow plugs and the injectors, that's what caused the meltdown. And then maybe after that, power was getting rerouted and it burnt the post on the glow plug solenoid. So long story short, I didn't film any of this stuff all the way down to it. I replaced the valve cover gasket and the injector harness because that obviously had melted, and it melted on the engine harness side of that connector as well. So I got the valve cover gasket that came with both ends of the connector, as well as a pigtail for both clips that go into your engine harness. So I got that replaced. Pulling the valve cover off on the passenger side of this motor is a little bit more of a pain than I was expecting with other things that had to come out. But I got that all done, did a brand new glow plug solenoid, since that had just gotten some heat to it. Didn't even want to mess with that being working or not working. Just bought a brand new one. That didn't solve the issue. I was really hoping it was just the connector for this side injectors, and doing the valve cover gasket and harness would fix it. It did not. And I have to thank my friend Austin, who is a diesel tech. He's a supervisor at a diesel shop, and he helped me kind of cut some corners for some of the shadowing on these online forums I was doing. I was trying to figure out where to look. I'm not a diesel tech. I haven't done a lot of work on these 7.3s. This is the second one I've owned, but he helped me kind of navigate some of the common issues in these trucks. And I was looking at the ICP sensor. That one has been replaced. He felt like that probably wasn't the culprit. So I went beyond that. It did need an oil change. The oil was black. It was at level, but it was black oil. It looked like it had been in there a while. So I knew that this motor relies on good oil and oil pressure, since that directly correlates to the injectors and how those run. So I did an oil change. I have a fuel filter. I haven't done that yet. I still have to do that. But ultimately it came down to a bad IDM. And that was a shot in the dark. Austin mentioned it. It was a common issue in these trucks, or can be a common issue in these trucks. And rather than getting the $200 remanned or rebuilt IDM, I went through Diesel Power Products and went with an Alliant Power IDM. And Austin implored me basically to go that route. That's the actual rebuild IDM that Ford as a manufacturer suggests you go with. So I spent just around $500 instead of $200 for the Alliant Power IDM. Crossed my fingers that might have been it. I didn't pin test my old one. I figured since this IDM in this truck was the original Ford IDM, it more than likely was the culprit. So I took the shot in the dark, ordered the IDM, and the truck fired up and ran like it was brand new. So it was the IDM all along, but in summary, I did do a lot on this truck that really kind of needed to be done. I have not done the driver's side valve cover gasket yet. I do want to do that just so I've got all new connectors, all new harnesses all around. But it's got everything else done. Did an oil change. That helped significantly as well. Just doing the oil change, this thing idles higher, idles better, just sounds like a happier truck. I had one OBS tow mirror, the vertical 7.5 by 10 inch period correct tow mirrors. And this is it here. I put these mirrors on my OBS dually that I had, that IDI truck. And as you can see here, they are the original Ford stamped mirrors. They do make this mirror in a remanned mirror. Same exact mirror. It's a 7.5 by 10. It looks identical to that one, but it does not have the Ford stamping on the back. And being OCD and wanting to do everything period correct, I really wanted a set with the Ford stamping on the back. Unless you can find them in junkyards, they're really kind of expensive. So I put the word out on Instagram, and my friend Austin in upstate New York from Dwight Speed Shop answered the call. He just bought another OBS himself, and it came with these mirrors, but also came with a separate pair of these mirrors. We did some bartering. I sent him some products, and he sent me the mirrors. So huge thanks to Austin for those. These are side specific. They're not symmetrical. It may look like this plate on bolts, but it doesn't. This is all one piece on the back here. And as you can see, this center is not symmetrical. It's not technically in the center. So if you only have two passenger side mirrors, the one on the driver's side would have to flip over and around to index properly on the driver's side. But then the Ford stamp would be upside down. Not a huge deal, but if you got OCD like me, you'd know. And so luckily, the two that Austin sent me were passenger side mirrors, but the one that I had just so happened to be a driver's side. So now that the mirrors are on, we've got the Ford indexing proper on the passenger side and on the driver's side. So I'm super excited about that. And this really gives it that tow rig look with these bigger tow mirrors. And the most important thing about these mirrors, and I've mentioned this before, is they are a 1-to-1 ratio lens on both sides. And when you're towing a trailer, having a normal 1-to-1 lens on this side, on the passenger side, is key for when you're backing a long trailer up. Because the OEM mirrors that came on this truck, these rinky-dink little ones with these slide adjusters so you can obviously move them out beyond a trailer if you're towing something. The passenger side ones are wide-angle lenses as opposed to the driver's side. So when you've got this wide angle lens on your passenger side and a 24-foot long enclosed car trailer like mine, and you're backing the thing up, you have no idea your depth perception as far as how far back or where exactly the passenger side of your trailer is at the back. So that was the most important thing about getting these on, let alone the fact that it's a bigger lens and you get a much more range of view in that mirror. You can see here I've got the old fuel filter out. I've got it draining into my catch can. Again, as always, trying to do everything Motorcraft. So I've got the Motorcraft fuel filter here. Got a new O-ring that goes on the cap. And just gonna take it all out, get the new O-ring in, get the new filter in. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fill the entire housing with Mercon 5 Motorcraft ATF. That helps clean the injectors and put that basically the ATF is a cleaning agent through the fuel system from the fuel filter onto the motor. And that was something that my friend Austin said that is good to do every time you change your filter. Also, filling it to the brim helps prime it a little easier as well. My grandfather owned an excavation company, so I grew up operating a link belt excavator and a D3 and a D4 cat dozer. And although I wasn't a tech on those machines, I started operating them when I was basically like 12 or 13 years old. And I was always tasked with greasing them, fueling them up. And rule number one was never run them out of fuel, especially those old cat diesels. You don't want to run a diesel out of fuel anyway, but those old bulldozers were just a complete nightmare to get reprimed. On my IDI, when I did my fuel filter, I filled the cartridge up with ATF, just like Austin had suggested, and other, info online as well. And that cranked for 5-6 seconds and fired right up, no problem. So I've got my fingers crossed that this primes just as easily, especially with filling that bowl all the way to the top. All right. Fingers crossed. It turned over once. It's as if I never emptied that fuel bowl or changed the filter at all. That's great. That's awesome. Well, that'll do it for this episode. I know it's been jumping all over the place, but thank you guys so much for the support and so much for the motivation. Really appreciate any of you guys that had reached out, even on social media, asking if I was still doing the YouTube stuff. Really want to kind of reconfigure how I'm doing this. I'd really like to have a little bit more cinematic value to some of these videos, which takes more time. And I feel like when I film this stuff, I'm filming secondary. I've got something to do here in the shop and minimal time to do it in. And so I kind of justify filming it. And so I'm not focusing on the filming. I'm focusing on the project, getting it done as quickly as possible. And then I just decide to set the camera up. And I feel like I'm rushing the filming process. And it does take a lot of time. So I'm hoping for 2022, I can kind of slow that process down and kind of curate it a little bit more and make it a little bit more enjoyable for you guys and me. I'd love to take more time and put out a better product as far as the actual videos go, and feel better about that, and not just a point and shoot vlog style video. So that'll do it for this episode. I'm not sure what's next. Perhaps getting the 700 tidied up and ready for Eurotripper. Hopefully everybody has a great holiday season leading up towards Christmas with you and your loved ones. Hopefully I'll get another episode up before Christmas amidst all the work I'm trying to punch through before the end of the year. But I'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you in the next episode.